Yo, what's up guys? You got PokeaimMD here with a tournament replay between Blunder, my boy, and Nintendi. Now, if you guys don't know, Smogon Tour is currently going on, and basically they're qualifiers every weekend to qualify for Smogon Tour playoffs. Now this is, I don't know what week this is in particular because I don't feel like checking, but this is the finals between Blunder and Nintendi. It's ORAS OU, which is one of Blunder's strongest OUs in my opinion. Probably his strongest. I put maybe Black and White at a close second with ORAS. Then I put 7th Gen behind that. But this is probably Blunder's strongest OU. And Nintendi is a really solid player as well, who's proven himself multiple times in tours and whatnot. But yeah, I wanted to commentate this because I was a little bit upset that Blunder uploaded yesterday for the first time in like 3-4 weeks. And obviously he has a lot of school stuff going on, and he keeps saying, oh, you know, after May 6th I'll be uploading. I'll hold him to that too, play some COD and whatnot. He actually added me today to record, and I was busy recording my own thing, so I couldn't with him. But definitely it's summer coming through. But Blunder spends like 30 hours a week, man, playing tournaments, and I don't see any of that on his channel. And I was like, you know what, I will go and record this myself, because you're actually though you consistently do well in tournaments, just commentate it. You can't come into the heat of chat and be like, hey man, bros, I don't know what should I upload, man. I don't know what to upload, dude. This is tough, man. I was like, bro, you got like 30 tournament replays stocked up, and he hides the room too, so I can't even watch them when I you know, I go to replays real quick and I type in Blunder, because typically I like to see how Blunder's doing. You know, we give each other the replays, right? Like, but like half his tournament ones he just hides. He showed me them though yesterday, so no disrespect for that. But yeah, let's get into this finals. I want to commentate it. I'm going to do my best to not be biased towards Blunder, because obviously he is one of my best friends on the internet. And I'll do my best to share the thought process of both Nintendi and Blunder. So looking at team preview, Blunder has a Chansey. And then he has some sort of, it looks like almost, it looks like that team that runs around the ladder that the dude's been using forever, with the Heatran lead constantly, with Bisharp, Keldeo, Skarmory. I forgot his name off the top of my head. But yeah, so Blunder's Chansey actually walls the majority of Nintendi's team. The Volcarona would otherwise be a problem, but Blunder could potentially have Scarf, Keldeo, and like I said, Chansey hard walls, DNC hard walls, Volcarona hard walls, Starmie. Walls Landorus if it's not SD, and even then Toxic. Blunder definitely has to watch out for the Weavile as well, and I think that's Nintendi's game plan as well going into it, because if he gets a nice knockoff or some good chip with Pursuit on Chansey, because Chansey's never ever staying in on Weavile, and if it's banded Weavile, that could be troublesome for Blunder, since it means that switching in on DNC becomes a little bit harder. Diamond Storm does about 35-40% to Chansey. If it's invested in, do a little bit more, but I'm pretty sure it's around the 35% range. Ferrothorn is also going to be pretty key for Nintendi, because Blunder actually has a Calm Mind Slowbro, and that is a huge threat. That is a huge threat. It's Mega Bro, and it beats Weavile. It beats Weavile 1v1 because it's scald. It beats DNC after a couple boosts. Volcarona needs to be boosted up in order to do any damage to it, and of course Mega Slowbro cannot be crit. And of course it beats Landorus. Now Starmie can actually put in a little bit of work versus it if it's Toxic. Nintendi's team is really similar to Jamvad's, if not a Jamvad team if I'm not mistaken, or really similar to that one that Jamvad ran. And Jam loves his Toxic Starmies. Of course, no disrespect to Nintendi, I don't know if it's that team in particular. And Ferrothorn in particular as well, spamming Leech Seed is really nice versus Blunder. Of course, though, he does have a great Defogger in Skarmory and Amoonguss, which doesn't care about the Leech Seed and can HP Fire Pharaoh. So that's pretty big too, because if Amoonguss gets in versus the right Pokemon, aka a non-offensive Starmie or even DNC, it's free to just fire off attacks like Giga Drain and HP Fire. So Nintendi is really, I think, up against the wall, or has his back against the wall at team preview, just because it's really tough for him to break through Chansey. Unless it's like SD Landers, like I said. And keep in mind, guys, this is ORAS, so there's no Z moves and whatnot. But yeah, let's just get right into it. So Blunder leads off with Slowbro, as Nintendi leads off with DNC. This is a really solid lead on Blunder's part, because it would beat DNC as a lead because of Scald. It threatens Scald on versus the Pharaoh Seed as well. Ferrothorn, excuse me. Why did I call it Pharaoh Seed? It also threatens Landorus. And the only bad matchup that Blunder would have right here that he couldn't really switch in super well to in fear of losing Slowbro would be a Choice Band Weavile, right? Because Choice Band Weavile Pursuit. It actually doesn't knock out Slowbro, but it could weaken him to the point of him not being able to switch in on Landers anymore. But at the same time, Blunder, like I said, has the Skarmory right there. So it's a good lead on Blunder's part because if he let Volcarona, he could just go hard Chansey. And if he let Starmie, hard Chansey. And if you let Ferrothorn, Amoonguss, or Skarmory are good switch-ins. And Nintendi's smart to lead off with Diancie as well, because in this generation, Diancie runs Protects, because it doesn't get the auto speed boost, and that means it gets the Magic Bounce, and that can deny Blunder's hazards and whatnot. So that's really important. Plus having his Diancie speed tier, being faster than what could potentially be a non-Scarf Keldeo, really important. Also being faster than Bisharp and whatnot. So Blunder... or Diancie's just going to Mega Evolve and go Protect as it should, as Blunder goes for a Calm Mind. Now this is really cool too because it automatically threatens something like Volcarona, which can't come in immediately on it. Ferrothorn also has to fear Scald as well, because if it gets burnt, it's going to be worn down so quickly by the burn. Plus the Amoonguss' HP Fire and whatnot, and potentially Hatches as well. But Nintendi's play was still the best play he can make turn 1, because again, getting the Magic Bounce and getting the Speed Boost is really important. So Nintendi's only real good switch-in is Starmie, and Blunder's just going to throw off a Scald, no drawback right here. Now, this is a solid switch-in on Nintendi's part because, again, Blunder's going to be fearing the Toxic from Starmie. That's the only reason why you bring in Starmie on Slowbro. It resists the dual coverage of Psyshock plus Scald, and Starmie does threaten with the Toxic to wear it down. And this turn is actually really solid on Nintendi's part as well, because he predicts Blunder to scout for the Toxic and not go hard Chansey, which would have been, you know, a guaranteed switch into Starmie 100% of the time, especially because we end up seeing leftovers at the end of this turn, so we know it's not like some sort of crazy trick set. But Blunder actually opted to go Bisharp, and I know I'm taking this really slow, but I'm trying my best to explain the thought process, and like I said, I'm trying my best not to be biased. I could easily commentate this based on Blunder's perspective and not give a damn about what the hell Nintendi does, but I want to not be biased. So if you guys want to watch the replay, I'll link it down below. But yeah, so Blunder's thought process is, okay, Starmie comes in, it's going to go for Toxic. Let me get in my Bisharp right here on the Toxic and automatically put Starmie in a 50-50 position where I can Pursuit and knock him out if he switches. I can Sucker Punch if he stays in an obstacle for Scald. But Nintendi makes a really solid play. Now, I'm going to assume again that this thing was Toxic, right? So Nintendi makes a really solid play, expects the Bisharp, is rewarded with a crit, and that was really nice on Nintendi's part. Read the fact that Blunder would not go hard Chansey, but Blunder would try and take an opportunity to get rid of Starmie. It makes sense too, because if Blunder is able to get up hazards, Nintendi would no longer have a way of dealing with them. Landers does not have defog in this generation, and the only thing that would stop the hazards would obviously be the Magic Bounce on Diancie, but gets a crit right there. Beautiful turn on Nintendi's part. But it turns out the Bisharp is Choice Scarf. So Nintendi basically didn't switch out because he was fearing the Pursuit. Makes sense. Makes sense. It was a 50-50 anyway. But it was more so in Blunder's favor because knockoff is no drawback since there's no fear of being knocked out by Scald. Turns out he's a knockoff Bisharp with Scarf. Obviously knockoff Bisharp, but turns out he's Scarf. And that is so big because getting rid of Starmie early, again, I already mentioned the hazards, and the fact that Slowbro more than likely is going to not be Toxic this game unless it's like a Toxic Landers. Nothing else on Nintendi's team really runs Toxic, and Toxic Landers is also rare at that. But Weavile comes in. Now, Nintendi's thought process right here is, okay, Bisharp outspeeds me, yeah, but it gets it's locked in a knockoff, which doesn't knock me out, and at the same time, I can either get off a knockoff on my own, or I can Pursuit, expecting him to want to go Keldeo, or Skarmory. Skarmory also makes sense for Blunder as well if he's not a Shed Shell variant. If he's like even if he's Rocky Helmet variant, any chip on Weavile is really nice. And Blunder's okay versus this Weavile because again, these two right here, Keldeo and Skarmory, really deal with it well. But I think that Blunder actually opts to stay in and go for the knockoff. Now, I think that Blunder's thought process was, okay, the only Weavile that can actually have a chance versus my team, there's two Weavile sets that could have a chance versus Blunder's team. The first one is Bandit. Bandit is one that could potentially flinch Skarmory to death and could also potentially crit through a regular Slowbro with Pursuit or whatnot and deal with it, knock out Amoonguss and whatnot, and break through Chansey. It has to be Bandit. The other one would be an SD variant. So, in order for SD variant to have the power to break, it has to go for I really am sorry that this is going really slow, but there'll be some turns when Chansey's out that I'm just speeding up talking through it. But the only Weavile that can actually break through is, like I said, the Bandit variant or the SD, and SD needs a boost, and he needs the Life Orb boost as well to actually do damage to his team. So Blunder opts to stand right here and go for knockoff. At the same time, Blunder didn't really need the Bisharp. Like, knocking off Ferrothorn's leftovers would have been cool, knocking off potentially a Rocky Helmet on Landers would have been cool for Seismitoss spam from Chansey, and maybe having the Scarf Iron Head to revenge the Diancie, but like I said, he has great switch-ins to Landers and Skarmory, Slowbro. Diancie is hard-walled by Chansey, and then at the same time, it can't OHKO Slowbro or Amoonguss, and Amoonguss, they both threaten it with super effective damage. So I stand by Blunder's play right here, too. I feel like Blunder would say that. And goes for knockoff as Nintendi tries to make an aggressive play right there and go for the Pursuit. Goes for Double Pursuit as Blunder tries to switch out right now. That was a smart play, too, on Nintendi's part, reading that. The Pursuit obviously would not have knocked out Blunder if he stayed in, and there was a chance that if Blunder went for the Iron Head, obviously Weavile went down if he went for Pursuit. So Blunder thought that, okay, obviously Nintendi knows that Pursuit doesn't knock me out unless I switch. Let me switch out to Skarmory now on the... Let me switch out to Skarmory now because Weavile can now switch up moves and go for, you know, Ice Crash or knockoff if it wants to, and knock out my Bisharp. But Nintendi reads that incredibly well and ends up going for the Pursuit right there, and that was beautiful because he didn't. It punishes Blunder for that, but at the same time, like I said, he didn't really need Bisharp. So Blunder gets in his Keldeo. Nintendi ends up going for the knockoff, and I can understand this play too. At the same time, though, I'm not 100% about it because Keldeo at this point it gets a kill when it comes in. Hydro Pump. Scald, Secret Sword, which is a 2-hit KO on Ferrothorn depending on rolls, and also Secret Sword on Weavile. But I think Nintendi's thought process is, okay, if this is Specs, I'm not even switching in on Scald's period, which means that it's less likely that Blunder has to risk, and by at least going for knockoff if it was Specs, it makes it that Blunder has to go for Hydro Pumps to knock out Volcarona and Diancie. Scalds would not knock out either of them. So, unless it's naive Diancie, and even then I think it needs a burn or like a high roll or something like that. But so I understand the knockoff play. Blunder gets the free KO though with this Keldeo. He literally did not have to predict with Keldeo, especially because it turns out it was leftovers since it could switch up moves. Now, Diancie comes out. Blunder's going to make the safe play into his Chansey, and at this point, Chansey's looking super solid. The Diamond Storm does 35 as Blunder goes for the softball, scouting for that Diamond Storm, and then opts to throw off a Seismic Toss. Seismic Toss hits everything on his team, loses nothing from it. Now, what Blunder actually opts to do right here is go out to Skarmory. Now, this dealt with Ferrothorn's potential hazards and whatnot if it wanted to go for spikes. Didn't care about Leech Seed and whatnot. And Nintendo's thought process was, Nintendi, I called him Nintendo. Nintendi's thought process was, all right, if Chansey wants to try and get up rocks, which will obviously hinder my Volcarona, this is an opportunity for me to get in Diancie right here. So he doubled out to Diancie. I understand that play, and I understand Blunder's play as well, as he can go right out into Amoonguss. Amoonguss would take the HP Fire. What Nintendi ended up doing right there was protecting. This scouts for the Iron Head by Skarmory, and also if Skarmory wants to be a little bit more reckless and go for a spike, expecting Diancie to want to switch, fearing the Iron Head, that protect meant that Magic Bounce would happen either way. But Amoonguss was an all-around safe switching too because the Amoonguss is more than likely Spadef, takes HP Fires, tanks them from Diancie, and Amoonguss is now in a commanding position because Diancie will be 3-hit KO'd by the Giga Drain. Depending on the Amoonguss's EV spread and the Diancie's EV spread, Diamond Storm could 2-hit KO. It's a really likely roll in Blunder's favor though. But Amoonguss is now in a commanding position because Spore is free. Like the worst case scenario, it bounces back, but Blunder still doesn't take crap from it. So he can throw off a Giga Drain right here as Nintendi goes for Protect, and he is going to bring out the Ferrothorn right now as Blunder predicts that very nicely and goes for the HP Fire. Again, it was no drawback on Blunder's part. Obviously, Nintendi expected the Giga Drain or Spore, and he wants to try and get up some type of hazards with Ferrothorn, some type of leeway, because at this point, he has to try and break through with potentially crits from Diancie, again, a potential SD Landers, or Volcarona getting a little bit nasty, like, and critting through his team too. But even then, like, Blunder has outs. Whirlwind on Skarmory because Sturdy is intact. Obviously, the giant fat blob there too, but really nice call on Blunder's part, and the crit also hurts the Ferrothorn a bit more because it will get 2-hit KO'd. Actually, no, crits is it won't actually get to a KO, but it means that it can't switch in on more Seismic Tosses. So, and Amoonguss is once again in the commanding position. So, Blunder makes the HP Fire play one more time as Landers comes in, and nothing Landers can do can OHKO Amoonguss, not even a Banded Earthquake. Again, no Z moves in this, unless it's like Power Hurt Fly. So Blunder gets off a free sport right here as the Landers just get up rocks. Again, Nintendi's thought process is, okay, if I'm going to break through his team, I need to make sure that Skarmory's Stardy's broken, so that way if my Volcarona sets up, that's not a reliable check. I still need to crit the Chansey. If the Chansey is not like a Toxic variant, and if Volcarona is actually a Roost variant, it wins at this point. But I don't think that's a thought. I don't think that actually is a set, because obviously Nintendo would have just went hard Volk anyway. But we do see a Spore come off, and this does give Blunder a potential free attack as he goes for the Giga Drain. Blunder didn't have to predict Volcarona coming in at that point because he has the 100% switch in, and Nintendo made the right play because it would obviously take the HP Fires and the Giga Drain. So brings in Chansey right now as Nintendo goes for the Quiver Dance. And again, this is interesting because Toxic could come off from Chansey. Chansey actually ends up going for Seismic Toss. I don't know if he actually didn't have Toxic, or he was just reading the Diancie or Ferrothorn coming in on the Toxic Scalp, but that was really, really, really nice for Blunder. Nintendo switched out to Ferrothorn, expecting the Leech Seed, expecting the Toxic to come out, and that would give him potential Leech Seed. But Blunder would never stay in with Chansey because it would recover too much on Ferrothorn. He would switch out, but that would still be 2 turns of leftovers recovery that Ferrothorn would get in, which would allow it to take an HP Fire later, and also potentially Leech Seed on doubles and whatnot. But Chansey can potentially just go right for another Seismic Toss and knock him out. Now, this is interesting because a crit from Diancie's Leaf Storm will actually knock out Chansey at that point, which I think that Nintendo might have been banking on right there. Because basically, if Blunder went for Soft Boiled, the Feral Seed, or Feral Thorn, I keep calling it Feral Seed, my gosh, I didn't play Little Cup really recently, but the Feral Thorn would have been able to get out the Leech Seed and recovered more than all of what it lost. Blunder obviously didn't want that happening. Feral Thorn could be annoying as well for Slowbro. Like at that point, Slowbro can win when a Calm Mind up too. So goes for the Seismic Toss, and again, Nintendo was trying to lead up to this crit moment. If he gets the crit on Diamond Storm right now, Chansey will go down, and that opens up a huge door for Volcarona, and even Diancie at that, because Diancie guaranteed outspeeds the Keldeo since there was no Choice Scarf, and you know it was confirmed not Choice Scarf. So goes for the Diamond Storm crit, does not get it right there. That was what Nintendo was trying to lead up to. Weaken the Chansey and try and get it, but again, still going for Diamond Storms. This Chansey can just go right for Soft Boiled, and at this point, it's like it's a little bit desperate for Nintendo, but he can't break through it. Blunder can just continuously Soft Boiled spam right here, and basically spam Seismic Tosses if he wants to, but Nintendo's trying to break through or stall out the Seismic Tosses, but I don't think will be I don't think will help too much anyway. Brings out his Landers right now to potentially burn Sleep Turns to see if we see a Rocky Helmet on him. We do. So chipping away at Chansey, maybe trying to open up for another Diamond Storm crit later. However, this does give Blunder the free switching to Keldeo. As Nintendo predicts that very nicely and doubles out to Diancie. So again, he's taking the aggressive way, and he's doing whatever he can to try and chip away at that Chansey. So really nice play. As he is going to switch out to Amoonguss, that's a really nice play on Blunder's part as well. Because Amoonguss would deal with the Moonblast, and also scouts for him trying to go for an aggressive play going for Diamond Storm, as you do see Nintendo go for the Moonblast right there. I'd say that was a good play if he did scout for the Diamond Storm, like if Nintendo wanted to make the hard read out to Chansey and try and go for the crits, because at any point, if Chansey does get crit by Diamond Storm upon switching, it's dead. It's dead. It gets 2-hit KOs. So if Diamond Storm hits it, it would do 50-something percent, close to 60%. And again, the next one would knock him out. So Blunder makes the Amoonguss play because it obviously has Regenerator. It's the least expendable member, or the most expendable member on the Blunder's team, besides probably like Skarmory, unless it's Ironhead. But at the same time, it also denies Volcarona from setting up if this Amoonguss is Clear Smog. So good mid-ground play right here. As we do see a Diamond Storm come out, does 50, and Giga Drain actually doesn't recover Amoonguss above 50. So he goes for another Diamond Storm and actually misses one really, really big, because at this point, again, he needs some ridiculous luck with Volcarona to break through that Chansey. So that was pretty big. If he got the same roll, Amoonguss went down. But at the same time, Blunder was in a position to sack Amoonguss. Like I said, he would sack it. If it died, he can get in Chansey and literally Soft Boiled without the fear of being crit by Diamond Storm. And also, there was very little Diamond Storms left on Diancie's part. So we do see the Volcarona come out, and Amoonguss can just stay in and click clear Smog, which is I'm sure what Blunder opted to do right there. As NINTENDI just, reads that and goes right for the Fire Blast. Now, Blunder goes out into his Keldeo. Skull does not knock him out. I mentioned that earlier, how Skull would not be able to knock him out, and this does give him the Quiver Dance. But this was also like a really, I think, a more sped up way on Blunder's part to end it, as opposed to clicking like Seismic Toss, and then Softball repeatedly. By scalding, NINTENDI doesn't recover that much with Giga Drain anyway. And it just means that Seismic Toss is a 2-hit KO on Volcarona as opposed to like a 3-hit KO, 4-hit KO with Burn, and if he gets a little bit of luck. As you can see, Fire Blast does 27. At that point, the Chansey can just click Seismic Toss twice, even with a crit and maybe like a Burn. Like he doesn't recover enough with the Giga Drain right there, unfortunately. Like you see, he's just out of range, and Chansey's able to break through right there. We do finally see a Flame Body, but it's a little bit too late. Freaking Blunder. Because it's a little bit too late, because at that point, Blunder can go right out into Mega Slowbro, Mega Evolve, and just click Scald and finish off the game. So, I'm sorry that my narration took too long, but I wanted to give you guys, the thought process of both of them and try my best not to be biased towards Blunder, because obviously I love Blunder, that's my boy. But, yeah, that was one of Blunder's tournament replays. This is a really long narration for... Well, it was a really short game, actually. 40 turns is not that long. So like I said, if you guys actually want to watch the replay itself without me breaking it down, feel free to check it out. NINTENDI, if you're watching, I apologize if I butchered your thought process at all. I thought I was pretty spot on. If I wasn't, my bad, bro. Blunder, you won, so who cares if I butchered your thought process. But, yeah. Blunder's been doing really well in tournaments, and I really do hope that he's encouraged, because I'm stealing his content, to upload himself. But, of course, I hope you guys all enjoyed. Of course, if you did, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye, my friends. Expect some more tournament coverage from me for Classic. Goodbye, buddies.